My dad toasted, "To the daughter who gave me real grandkids." Everyone clapped for my sister. My son, who I raised alone after my husband died, whispered, "What about me?" I didn't stand up. I didn't raise my voice. I lifted my glass and said one sentence that made my dad cough so hard the room froze. "I'm Rachel, and I need you to understand something right now. The night my father made that toast was supposed to be a celebration. It was his 70th birthday. The whole family was there. My sister Emma, her husband, their 3 kids. My uncles, aunts, cousins I hadn't seen in years. And me, sitting at the corner table with my 11-year-old son Jason. My husband died when Jason was 2. Brain aneurysm. One Tuesday morning he kissed me goodbye and by noon he was gone. I've spent 9 years since then doing everything alone. Working double shifts as a nurse, helping with homework at midnight, being both mom and dad at every soccer game, every school play, every moment that mattered. And Jason? He's the best thing that ever happened to me, even on the days when I'm so tired I can barely stand. But here's what you need to know about my father. He's old school. Traditional. The kind of man who believes family legacies are built on specific things. Marriage that lasts, children who follow the rules, grandchildren who carry the family name properly. When my husband died, Dad told me I should consider moving back home. A woman alone, he said, shouldn't be raising a boy by herself. I didn't move back. I built a life instead. My sister Emma? She did everything right in Dad's eyes. Married her college sweetheart. Had 3 kids before 30. Her husband Tyler works in finance. They live in a beautiful house in the suburbs and their kids go to private school. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister. But Dad has always seen her as the golden child and he's never been subtle about it. So there we were at this fancy restaurant Dad had rented out for his birthday party. Everyone dressed up, champagne flowing, speeches being made. Jason sat next to me in his little button-up shirt that I'd ironed that morning before my shift at the hospital. He'd been so excited to come, had even made Grandpa a birthday card with his own hands. Then Dad stood up to make a toast. He thanked everyone for coming. Talked about his life, his accomplishments, how proud he was of the family he'd built. And then he raised his glass and said, "I want to make a special toast to Emma, to the daughter who gave me real grandkids. The ones who'll carry on our family name properly, who were raised in a real home with 2 parents who planned for them. Real grandkids." The room erupted in applause. Everyone was clapping, smiling at Emma and her picture-perfect family. My sister looked uncomfortable, I'll give her that, but she smiled anyway, raising her glass while her kids beamed. I felt Jason go still beside me. That kind of still that only happens when a child is trying very hard not to cry. He looked up at me with these huge eyes and whispered, "What about me, Mom? Am I not real? Do you think I should have stayed quiet?" Smiled through it like I'd smiled through so many other little digs over the years. My hand was shaking when I picked up my champagne glass, but my voice was steady. I didn't stand up. I didn't yell. I just waited until the clapping died down, until Dad was taking a sip of his drink, until I had the attention of at least the people at our end of the table. Then I lifted my glass and said very clearly, "And here's to the grandfather who taught me that when your spouse dies and leaves you alone with a 9-month-old baby, you're not part of the real family anymore." My father coughed so hard he bent over double. Champagne went everywhere. The room didn't just go quiet, it froze. Every single person stopped mid-motion, glasses halfway to their mouths, forks suspended over plates. My Aunt Linda, Dad's sister who I've always been close to, actually gasped out loud. And what do you think I did then? Did I apologize? Run away? No. I sat there, calm as anything, and took a sip of my champagne while my father turned the color of a tomato, still coughing, his wife patting his back frantically. Jason was looking at me with this mix of shock and something else. Pride maybe? Or just relief that someone had finally said something. What happened in those next few minutes changed everything. But I need you to understand where I was coming from first. I need you to know that this wasn't just about one toast. This was about 9 years of being treated like my son was somehow less than because he only had one parent. 9 years of birthday parties where Dad would make a big fuss over Emma's kids and give Jason a generic gift card. 9 years of family photos where Dad would position Emma's family front and center while Jason and I stood at the edge. Very soon I'm going to tell you exactly what my father said when he finally stopped coughing. I'm going to tell you about the argument that followed, about what Emma said, about the choice I made that night that I wasn't sure I could come back from. But right now I need to know something from you. Have you ever been in a moment where you had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting your child? Because that's exactly where I was, in that freezing silent restaurant, with everyone staring at me like I'd just committed an unforgivable sin. My father finally caught his breath. He set his glass down hard on the table, and the look he gave me was one I'd seen before. Disappointment mixed with anger, the same look he'd given me when I told him I was pregnant at 23, before I'd finished nursing school. The same look he'd given me when I refused to move home after my husband died. Rachel, he said, his voice hoarse. That was completely uncalled for. And that's when my Aunt Linda stood up. My Aunt Linda stood up and said, "Actually, Tom, I think it was long overdue." The tension in that room could have been cut with a knife. My father's face went from red to purple. Emma was staring at her plate. Her husband Tyler looked like he wanted to disappear. "Jason." He grabbed my hand under the table and squeezed it tight. "Linda, stay out of this," Dad snapped. "No," Aunt Linda said. She looked at me. "Rachel, I'm sorry. I should have said something years ago. Here's what you need to know about Aunt Linda. She's Dad's older sister and she's the only person in the family he actually listens to. Sometimes. She lost her husband 30 years ago and raised her 2 kids alone. Dad helped her back then, which makes what happened next even more twisted." Dad stood up. "Rachel, you're embarrassing yourself." "And Jason." "No," I said quietly. "You embarrass Jason. I'm just making sure he knows I see it." "Do you think I went too far?" Emma finally spoke. "Dad, she's right. That toast was—" "Don't you start," Dad cut her off. The whole party was watching now. Uncle Mike had his phone out like he was filming. Cousins were whispering. Emma's kids looked confused. But Jason sat up straighter next to me. "I think we should go," I said, standing up. "Come on, Jason." "Rachel, wait." That was Emma. She stood too. "Don't leave like this." "Why not?" I asked. "We're not the real family anyway, right?" My father slammed his hand on the table. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it, Dad?" I turned to face him fully. The whole room was silent. "Explain it to your grandson. Tell Jason how he's not real enough for you." Jason's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't cry. He just looked at his grandfather, waiting. And my father? He couldn't even look at him. That moment right there, that's when I knew I was done. Done trying to earn approval that would never come. Done watching my son realize he wasn't wanted the same way his cousins were. Aunt Linda walked over to us. "I'll walk you out." As we headed to the door, I heard Emma arguing with Dad. I heard Tyler trying to calm everyone down. I heard my father say something about respect and gratitude. But I didn't stop. I took Jason's hand and we walked out of that restaurant together. In the parking lot, Aunt Linda hugged us both. "You did the right thing," she said. "That boy is every bit as real and twice as loved as any other grandchild." Jason cried then. Just broke down in the parking lot while I held him. "Am I really not good enough for Grandpa?" he asked. And that broke my heart into pieces. What would you have said to your child in that moment? I told him the truth. "You're more than good enough. Grandpa's the one who's not good enough for you." Aunt Linda nodded. "Your mom's right, sweetheart." We drove home in silence. Jason fell asleep in the car, exhausted from emotion. And I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes after we got home, just thinking about what I'd done. Had I made things worse? Had I damaged Jason's relationship with his grandfather forever? My phone was blowing up. Texts from Emma. From cousins. Even one from Uncle Mike saying, "That was epic." But nothing from Dad. 3 days passed. I went to work, Jason went to school, and we didn't talk about the party. But I could see it weighing on him. He was quieter than usual. Didn't want to video chat with Emma's kids like he normally did on Wednesdays. Then on Thursday night someone knocked on our door. It was Emma. And she looked furious. "We need to talk," she said. What do you think she was angry about? That I'd embarrassed her? That I'd ruined Dad's party? Wrong. She was angry at herself. "I should have said something years ago," Emma said, sitting at my kitchen table. "I've watched Dad treat Jason differently and I let it happen. Because it was easier. Because it meant my kids got more attention." I didn't know what to say. "Tyler and I talked," she continued. "We're not going to Dad's house for Sunday dinners anymore unless he apologizes to you and Jason." The kids asked why you left the party and we told them the truth. They were horrified. "Emma, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You're my sister. Jason is my nephew. And what Dad did was cruel." Maybe I cried a little. Can you blame me? But here's where it gets interesting. Because while Emma was at my house making amends, Dad was at home having a very different conversation with Aunt Linda. And what she told him. It was about to change everything. Very soon I'll tell you about the letter that showed up at my door. About the impossible choice Dad tried to force on me. About what Jason decided to do that made grown men cry. But first I need to know, would you forgive someone who hurt your child like that? Even if they were family? The letter arrived on Saturday morning. Dad's handwriting on the envelope. I almost threw it away. Jason saw me holding it at the kitchen table and asked, "Is that from Grandpa?" "Yeah," I said. "Are you going to read it?" "Good question. Would you?" I opened it. Inside was a single page and a check for $50,000. Wait, did you expect that? Because I sure didn't. The letter said, Rachel, I'm sorry for what I said. This is Jason's college fund. But I need you to do something for me first. Come to Sunday dinner. Bring Jason. Don't tell Emma or Linda you're coming. Just you and the boy. We need to talk as a family. A bribe. He was literally trying to buy my forgiveness. Jason read it over my shoulder. That's a lot of money, Mom. It is, I said carefully. What do you think we should do? He was quiet for a minute. Then he said something that shocked me. I think we should go. But I want to bring the check with us. Why? You'll see. Do you think an 11-year-old should make that call? Because I let him. Sunday came. I texted Emma that we couldn't make our usual plans, didn't say why. Jason wore the same button-up shirt from the party. He put the check in his pocket. When we walked into Dad's house, he looked surprised. You came. Jason wanted to, I said. Dad looked at Jason. Really looked at him for maybe the first time in years. I'm glad you're here, son. I'm not your son, Jason said quietly. You made that clear. My father actually flinched. We sat down in the living room. Dad's wife, Karen, my stepmother, brought lemonade and then disappeared upstairs. Smart woman. I want to apologize, Dad started. Why? Jason interrupted. Why now? And here's where it got weird. Dad's hands were shaking. Aunt Linda told me something, he said. About my father. Your great-grandfather. He looked at me. After your mother died, did you know my father told me I should put you girls in a home? Said a widower couldn't raise daughters properly. That they needed a real mother. My jaw dropped. I told him to go to hell, Dad continued. Raised you and Emma by myself for 3 years until I met Karen. And I swore I'd never be like him. Never treat family as less than because of circumstances. He wiped his eyes. Then Aunt Linda asked me what I thought my father would say about that toast I made. And I realized. I became him. I became exactly what I hated. Jason pulled the check from his pocket. Slowly, deliberately, he tore it in half. Dad's face went white. Jason. I don't want your money, Jason said. His voice cracked, but he kept going. I want my grandpa. The real one. Not someone who pays me to pretend he didn't hurt me. I have never been more proud of my son. Dad broke down. Just completely fell apart. I'm so sorry. God, Jason, I'm so sorry. What happened next, you won't believe it. Jason walked over and hugged him. This tiny kid hugging his grandfather while the old man sobbed into his shoulder. You have to mean it though, Jason said. You can't just say sorry and then forget about me again. I won't. I promise I won't. I sat there crying, watching my son be braver than I'd ever been. But here's the thing, I wasn't sure I believed Dad yet. Words are easy. And Jason's forgiveness was his to give, but mine? That would take more than tears. Dad looked at me. Rachel, I know you're not ready to forgive me. I don't blame you. But I need to do something. Something public. Will you let me? What do you mean? Come to dinner next Sunday. The whole family. I need to make this right in front of everyone. Do you think I should have trusted him? Given him that chance? I looked at Jason. He nodded. Hey, I said. But if you hurt him again. I won't. I swear on your mother's grave I won't. That week was strange. Dad called Jason every single night. Just to talk. About school, about soccer, about nothing important. But he showed up. Emma called me Wednesday night. Dad invited us to dinner Sunday. He said you'd be there. What's going on? I honestly don't know, I told her. But I think Dad's trying to fix something. Is this about the check? Aunt Linda mentioned something. Jason tore it up. Emma was silent. Then, that kid is incredible. Yeah, I said. He really is. Sunday dinner arrived. The whole family showed up. Emma's family, Aunt Linda, Uncle Mike, even cousins from out of state. Dad had gone all out with the food. After everyone ate, Dad stood up. He was nervous, I could see his hands shaking again. I need to say something, he began. 2 weeks ago I made a toast that hurt people I love. Specifically, I hurt my grandson Jason and my daughter Rachel. The room went dead silent. What he said next made Uncle Mike drop his fork. Made Emma cry. And made Jason smile for the first time in 2 weeks. But I'm going to tell you about that next time. Along with the promise Dad made, the way Emma's kids reacted, and the unexpected person who showed up at the door halfway through dinner. Because that's when things got really complicated. Would you have given him this second chance? Or was I being naive? I told Rachel her son wasn't a real grandchild, Dad said to the whole table. I said it in front of everyone. In front of Jason. Emma's oldest daughter Lily gasped. Grandpa, you didn't. I did. Dad's voice cracked. And I need everyone here to know that I was wrong. Completely, terribly wrong. He walked over to where Jason and I sat. Got down on one knee, this 70-year-old man, kneeling in front of his grandson. Jason, you are my grandson. You're brave, kind, and a better person than I deserve. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't enough. The truth is, I'm the one who wasn't enough. Jason's eyes filled with tears. Grandpa. Let me finish, Dad said. I'm setting up a college fund for you, equal to what your cousins have. And I'm changing my will. You'll inherit the same as everyone else. But more than that, he pulled out a small box. This was my father's watch. I was saving it for, well, I had stupid ideas about who deserved it. But you deserve it. If you'll accept it. Do you think Jason took it? He did. With shaking hands, he opened the box and stared at the vintage watch inside. I'll earn it, Jason whispered. I promise I'll make you proud. You already have, Dad said. Aunt Linda was crying. Emma was crying. Even Tyler looked misty-eyed. Then Emma's middle kid, Ben, spoke up. Dad, why did Grandpa think Jason wasn't real? Tyler looked panicked, but Emma answered honestly. Because Jason's dad died and Grandpa had old-fashioned ideas about families. That's stupid, Ben said. Jason's family is just smaller. That doesn't make it fake. Out of the mouths of children, right? Dad stood up, wiping his eyes. Ben's right. It was stupid. And cruel. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for it. I finally spoke. Dad, I appreciate this. Really. But Jason forgave you already. I'm the one who's still angry. The room got tense again. I know, Dad said quietly. What can I do? Admit why you really treated us differently, I said. It wasn't just about traditional families. What was it really about? Dad looked at the floor. Emma leaned forward. Even Aunt Linda seemed surprised. You reminded me of my failures, Dad finally said. When your husband died and you kept going, kept working, kept being an amazing mother, you showed strength I didn't have when your mom died. I fell apart. Aunt Linda had to practically raise you girls for a year. You didn't fall apart. You thrived. And I resented you for it. I wasn't expecting that level of honesty. Were you? So you punished Jason for my strength? I asked. Yes. And I'm ashamed of that. The doorbell rang. Karen went to answer it. 30 seconds later, she came back looking confused. Rachel, there's someone here to see you. Says his name is David Chin. My heart stopped. Jason looked at me, eyes wide. David Chin. My husband's best friend. The man who disappeared from our lives 9 years ago because watching us reminded him too much of what he'd lost. What's he doing here? I asked. I called him, Dad admitted. I tracked him down. I thought Jason should know his father's best friend. I thought maybe I could help fix what I broke. Was this Dad trying to help? Or overstepping massively? David walked in. Older, grayer, but still the same man who'd been at my wedding. Who'd held Jason as a baby. Rachel, he said softly. I'm so sorry. For leaving. For not being there. Jason stood up slowly. You knew my dad? I was his best man at the wedding, David said. And I loved him like a brother. What do you think Jason did? Ran to him? Stayed angry? He walked over calmly and said, Tell me about him. The real stuff. Not just the stories Mom tells. David smiled through tears. He was terrible at karaoke but did it anyway. He cried at dog food commercials. And he talked about you every single day before you were born. Jason laughed. Actually laughed. Mom never told me about the karaoke. Because it was traumatic, I said, smiling despite myself. Dad watched this reunion he'd orchestrated. I can't bring back what was lost, he said. But maybe I can help build something new. For the first time in 9 years, I felt like my family was actually whole. Broken in places, sure. But whole. Emma hugged me. I'm proud of you. For standing up. For everything. Aunt Linda squeezed my hand. Your mother would be proud too. But as perfect as this moment felt, there was still one more thing that needed to happen. One conversation Jason and I needed to have with Dad. One final truth that would either heal us completely or break us apart again. And it had to do with something Dad said at the beginning of dinner. Something I'd caught but hadn't addressed yet. Something about his will that wasn't quite what it seemed. Do you think I should have just accepted the happy ending right there? Or was I right to push for the whole truth? I'm going to tell you what happened next. The final conversation. The real reason Dad had been treating Jason differently. And how an 11-year-old taught 2 generations of stubborn people how to actually be a family. After dinner, I pulled Dad aside. Emma followed us into his study. What did you mean about the will? I asked. You said Jason inherits, the same as everyone else. Not equally. What's the difference? Dad opened a drawer with shaking hands. Pulled out a velvet box. When your mother died, she left instructions. Specific things for you girls when you became mothers. He looked at Emma. I gave you grandmother's pearls when Lily was born. Worth about 40,000. Emma nodded slowly. For Rachel. Dad's voice cracked. She left her original engagement ring. For you to give Jason someday. Worth $50,000. My heart stopped. I never gave it to you, Dad continued. After your husband died, I told myself you'd sell it for bills. That you weren't stable enough. But the truth? I used keeping it as an excuse. If I convinced myself you weren't a real family, I didn't have to face that I'd stolen from you. You kept Mom's ring from me for 9 years? I whispered. He opened the box. Inside was a stunning Art Deco ring, diamonds and sapphires, clearly vintage. She wrote in her letter, Rachel has a strength that will carry her through anything. When she becomes a mother, she'll need to know I believed in her. I started crying. My mother believed in me before Jason was even born, and Dad had hidden that from me. Emma grabbed my hand. Dad, that's unforgivable, Dad said. I know, but I'm trying to make it right. Jason's college fund will match the cousins retroactive to his birth. Everything equal. Like it should have been. Do you think I should have forgiven him? I looked at that ring, my mother's faith locked away because of Dad's fear. I forgive you, I said. Not because you deserve it, but because Jason deserves a grandfather who's trying. And Mom would want this. But, I continued, you show up now. Every week. Every game. Every call. You treat Jason exactly like Emma's kids. No exceptions. I will, Dad promised. I swear. Emma added, and we're all going to therapy. Family therapy. Dad actually smiled. Your mother would have insisted on that. We returned to the living room. Jason looked up from photos with David. Grandpa has something special, I told Jason. From your grandmother. She wanted you to have it when you're older. I showed him the ring. That's for me. His eyes went huge. When you're ready. To give someone special or keep to remember where you came from. She believed in us before you were born. Jason looked at Dad. She believed in you too? More than I deserved, Dad said. Like you do. Jason walked over and hugged his grandfather. I forgive you, Grandpa. But you can't forget about me again. Never, Dad whispered. Never again. The rest of the night was perfect. David told funny stories about my husband. The kids played cards. Dad actually watched Jason's soccer highlights and asked questions. As we left, Emma hugged me. You changed everything tonight. Jason did, I said. He's braver than both of us. In the car, Jason asked, do you think Dad would be proud? I had to pull over, I was crying so hard. Yeah, baby. He'd be so proud. You forgave someone who hurt you and showed everyone what real family looks like. It's messy, Jason said. But it's ours. 6 months later, Dad hasn't missed a soccer game. He calls Jason 3 times a week. We're in family therapy working through the hurt. It's not perfect, but it's real. Emma and I are closer than ever. David comes to dinner twice a month. The cousins have sleepovers constantly. That ring sits in a safe deposit box waiting for Jason. A reminder that strength runs in our family. That love survives even when people mess up. That real families aren't perfect, they just keep showing up. Was I right to forgive Dad? Think so. Because Jason deserved his grandfather. And my mother believed in second chances. So that's it. The night I stopped being silent. The night my son taught us all about courage. The night our family became whole again. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Like if you enjoyed it, and if you didn't like something, share your opinion. I want to hear it. Thank you for watching.